the more code you write, the more programs you write, the more you will see that the use of a data structure, such as arrays, and the use of repetition constructs, such as for loops, come many times together. Why is that? The reasons we introduce data structures to our life is so that we can make processing of a bulk of data easier. We can, for instance, repeatedly go through element after element and do something to each element of the data structure, or aggregate a value as we process every element of the data structure. So repetition constructs are very natural on data structures. For loops specifically go very well with arrays for one more reason. In a for loop, we need to know how many times we will repeat. Remember, it is a form of definite iteration, definite loops. In arrays, we exactly know the size of the array. Upon the creation of the array, we need to know it. It's a static data structure. For this reason, for loops and arrays many times go together. There is a very special form of a for loop which is called for each. It's a new construct, a new repetition construct, which is specifically designed for use with arrays and, more importantly, other data structures that we will see later, other data structures that are in the collections in Java. How do we use a for each loop? Here is an example. Instead of having a variable that will hold the index of every array element, and then inside the loop, at the end of the loop, increase, for example, the value of that variable so that we go through each element of the array, the for each allows us to have a simplified iteration. We still have a variable, take a look at the parentheses of the for, but that variable now is not the index of an array element, it is an element itself. It represents an element itself, and it changes at every iteration without us having to actually explicitly do that. The for each loop will do that for us. In this specific example, the variable value will take at every iteration the value of the next element in the array. And for this reason, we can take the sum of all of the array elements much more easily, much more clean code than what it will be with just a for loop. Of course, exactly the same functionality that a for each loop provides to us, we can achieve exactly the same thing with a for loop, or even with a while loop. It does not add in functionality, but it simplifies our life. Now, there are reasons not to use a for each loop, and that is when we actually need to update the elements of the array or of any other data structure. With a for each, we can only read values, we cannot write, we cannot change the elements of an array.